Hello, 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 live from Denver. It is Friday night, and we are live with sound and all of that. Welcome to Critical Conversations for this February 16th in the year of our Lord 2024. And as you can see, I'm joined by my beautiful wife, Melissa.
Hello.
Beautiful. I will stress that a few times tonight, maybe, because she is so beautiful. Hey, all the usual critics and suspects in the chat. So happy to see you guys here. Yeah.
Right.
Yes, here we go. Anno Domini. Yeah, so this show, we're going to be talking about, or the theme or the thing of the show this week is going to be about finding or looking for, or what do you believe after, getting out of a cult situation, coercive situation where your beliefs and your ideas were actually sort of a kind of prison for you. And when that happens and people get away from stuff like that, well, we have pieces of paper here with writings about what might happen to such people and the various things and whatnot that people might get up to. But before we get into any of that, that's what we're talking about tonight. But before we get into that, let's get to our usual roundup of activities. Now, did you have a quote for us?
Yes. It goes along with something we're probably going to be talking about later, but it still has to do with the topic. The truth is that we simply do not know what happens after death. Sam Harris.
Yes, Sammy. One of the.
I tend to agree with him. I mean,
Yeah.
There's things I hope happen. There's things that it would be really nice if they happened, but I don't actually know what happens. No one's ever come back and told me, "Hey, here's what happens." So.
All right, I've got
big mystery.
Got it turned up.
Uh-oh.
All right. Off. Oh, the
Yeah, my mic's not going up at all.
Oh, no, wait a minute. Oh no, okay, your mic. I thought we had a total audio loss. I wonder what just. That's odd.
It says on right here.
Yes, it does. All right. Pardon us while we see if we can do a technical fix here.
No.
Okay, microphone. Okay. Yeah, and when we go, sorry about the confusion. There we go.
Okay.
How are we now? Can't hear her. Oh, hey, Alex. All right. Hopefully we've got some sound coming in there from her now. Try now.
Hi. No, you can barely hear me.
Wow, how weird.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's not showing up there again. See?
Okay, so something's up with her mic this week, and that is super annoying. So,
this is going to be interesting. All right, let me try reading this quote again. The truth is that we simply do not know what happens after death. Sam Harris.
There we go. Turn that sound off. Okay, good. Thank you for that quote. Yeah, we do the mic checks and everything. I'm telling you, that's weird. Everything was A-okay before that, so we'll get that fixed. But don't worry, if Mel wants to pipe in, I will absolutely give her the mic. How silly. How weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. All right. Did you have something you wanted to say?
No, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out how we're going to do this.
Well, I think if we put it there. Hello?
Hello?
There we go.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's working.
Okay, good. All right. Get nervous that all the audio is going to go away. Anyway, sorry. We're live, so I'm not going to try to do anything more with this right now. We're just going to cope with it. And I apologize for whatever. We do have stuff to talk about, so thank you for that quote.
You're
the other thing that we need to do before we forget and before we get into any other more serious stuff is we have our Fluff Monster alert. Yes, it is Benson Cam, as our Snuggles Not Struggles Cam, and there is our little furry beast.
Oh, he's going for the toys. I want a toy. Play with me. Oh, and his little bandana there says "obedient school dropout." By the way. Aw.
What do you call this?
I call it tug-a-fetch, because he comes over and you have to tug the toy away from him and then throw it. So he grabs it and then brings it back, and then you got to tug a little bit, throw it, bring it back.
Yeah, I was trying to play with him here. And you can see, there we go. There, now we start doing a little bit of tugging. Oh, he loves doing this. This is like multiple times a day. He gets up to this little game, and he just loves doing the whole fetch thing and then getting some treats. And he's strong. I am blown away by how strong his little mouth is. He can, I can actually pick him all the way up sometimes. He's, anyway, he's pretty awesome. So there he is, our little bundle of furry joy. So yeah, so there's our Benson Cam for this week, guys. Checking in with our little what is it? Lasso, Shih Tzu, Lasso, Lhasa Apso mix. Yes. Lhasa? Yeah, Lhasa Apso. Okay. Okay, there's one thing I needed to just get out of the way. I don't think any of my regular viewers are having a particular issue with me having used this term, but it has caused some degree of, or not caused, it has been used to contribute to further instances of what it is, which is trauma drama. Okay, I've used this term trauma drama, and what I mean by that, just like I said, I think when I first used the term, is very, very simply, and not insultingly or deridingly or in some sort of, oh God, those people. There's something wrong with them. This is a normal thing that happens with people who experience trauma. Is they are triggered. They have trauma responses. Those trauma responses can target and direct other people in exaggerated ways of blame, shame, and regret, and that happens. This is a documented thing. They don't call it. I call it trauma drama. You can go look up stuff on this. There are other people and places who have used this term. I guess it's invented or whatever. I'm not saying I invented the thing, but this is somehow misconstrued. And this is what I wanted to clarify, just in case anyone who ever comes to my channel, has a question about this or confusion about this and happens to watch this show, which they probably won't. But anyway, it'll be here for them. This is not an insult. This is not a targeted to telling your story or sharing your story or getting your who you are or your platforming yourself. Has nothing to do with any of that at all. It's not a denigration of that. It is it's an effort to not target. But what I'm trying to kind of put out there with that is that's when the subject matter is that we're talking about, Scientology in this case, right, isn't being talked about. Other people are who are talking about Scientology. And that, I almost wanted to do a little diagram today. I didn't, but I almost did, of you got everybody kind of going in this direction, right? And then suddenly half the people stop and are actually more interested in targeting these people than moving the thing forward. Pretty simple concept, right? And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. And it is based on valid psychological principles, right? In the field of trauma and how trauma responses work. It wasn't meant to be some thing. And I never once connected it with anyone telling their story or getting the word of abuses out or anything like that or pursuing justice. Never did that. So it's funny to me how other people will connect those dots, and I just needed to say something about that because it came up kind of in my face, slapping me around this week on social media, and it was annoying, frankly, to be so not just misconstrued, but attacked for stuff that I never ever said or meant, and you try to clarify it and it just goes south. And so, enough of that. Okay, enough of that. But I just wanted to say that to make it clear in case it hadn't been clear before in some way. I think I was, but I always think I am. And if there's one thing I have learned lately, it is that you can think you are clear until you hear what other people interpret of what you just said, right? You just go, wow. Okay, cool, right? And if that's on me to some degree, I want to own that, and I want to deal with that. Okay. So let's now maybe, and this is, okay, so now let's go ahead and get into sort of the theme of the show here this week, because I think this is important stuff. It's talked about a lot. It's a contentious issue even among some people, because people come out. Okay, so first off, faith or belief after a cult, after a religious experience or a traumatic experience of, with supernatural or religious overtones or connotations or belief sets or symptoms or dogmas. Lots of words we use for this stuff, but basically when we talk about a cult, we're talking about a prison of belief, as Lawrence Wright so eloquently put. And that prison of belief is pretty much as real and solid, if not more so, on a person's well-being and on their behavior as being in a real prison. It's really quite something. So after you have an epiphany, or after you have your moment of, the cult isn't everything. Oh my God, L. Ron Hubbard doesn't know what he's talking about. Or David Miscavige, I got to get away from this guy. And you break, right? Or you realize, the Mormon prophets are more interested in profits, right? And this kind of thing. And I'm not even being, I'm being flippant, but that's kind of how it is. And you come to that realization that, that people can do, can be very corrupt, and that cult leaders can be amongst some of the most corrupt, and that these very bad things. And you, and I certainly, and other people I've heard and talked to, have expressed that, you can dump the belief system. You can go, okay, this whole thing, nope, and it can take a while to do that. But you immediately reject a bunch of stuff and you stop believing that. But then there's this great big vacuum. Now what? What am I supposed to believe now? And that is the $10 million question for so many people out there, is what am I supposed to do? What am I supposed to believe? Because if that wasn't right and true, and here's the thing about truth. There's a point about truth I wanted to make that I think is key, because we throw that word around a lot, and there's a lot of arguments and debates and even fisticuffs and violence over the concept of truth. What is true? When I was in Scientology, just something I want to point out about this word and what it means. When I was in Scientology, what L. Ron Hubbard said was true. As far as I was concerned, it was 100% true. There was nothing truer anywhere. Now, I'm out of Scientology, and I've debunked it for myself very, very thoroughly. And for, you guys, I know that is not true. Well, what is? I believed that with all my heart. I was willing to die for those beliefs. I don't think that's an exaggeration of where I was at in Scientology. I've said a few times I was willing to take a bullet for Miscavige. If I thought that was actually gonna happen and that David Miscavige was about to get killed and I could stop it, I would have. That's how dedicated I was to my understanding of the truth of Scientology, and I was pledged to it, heart and soul. So I guess my point in this is that we can't really judge what's true if we're only going on how we feel about something. Because I could not have felt more strongly in the truth of that. There were no gaps, cracks, holes in my faith in Scientology. And I use that word because that's exactly the right word to use. It is belief. And that was where my head was at 100% on any metric, any test you give me, any scale you want to give me, it's going to max out on where my commitment to the Scientology belief set was at for a good chunk of my life. And now I reject all of it. I see various bits and pieces of truth in it that I've pointed out or we can talk about, but you've seen me say that those truths are so cloaked and hidden away and over sort of overcome by all the lies and the authoritarianism and the control mechanisms of Scientology. Those little truths aren't worth the time and effort to go dig them up, in other words. You can go get them much, much easier somewhere else with a lot less effort. So true, and the word truth is a controversial and complicated and difficult word, isn't it? Because your truth, my truth, her truth, we want to experience or understand objective reality, this concept of things that exist that are always that way outside of us, or that we are part of, that anybody, anywhere, in any way could agree that's the truth, right? Mm-hmm.
And that always changes, even with science, because what we believed was science and knew for sure was science, has changed. I mean, you see it even today with what we were talking about last week with the gut biome and stuff. We were so convinced for how long about everything just has to do with up here with mental conditions, and now we're learning there's this whole other thing that could be. So it's what is the truth? Do we ever really know?
Exactly. Do we ever know? That exactly. That's where I was exactly going with the whole objective reality thing. So thank you. That's because we can't, when you really understand how we work, brain, perception, all that kind of stuff, right? I'm not talking about any sacred, unknowable lore here. Anybody can learn this stuff. I'm not anybody special for learning a few things. But when you learn these things and you understand these things, then you start realizing that there is no, very, very little of what we are experiencing of the world is what you might call objective reality. We are a collection of a lot of things going on, a lot of influences going on here, all over the place, outside of us, influencing us. I mean, hell, if you think she doesn't have any effect on my daily thinking and mental health, right? And that's, and you guys too, even to a degree, right? So, so that's kind of how, so there's this reality we have to accept that truth is pretty goddamn relative. It's pretty my truth, your truth kind of thing. And hopefully we can come to enough agreements on enough of our relative truths that, we can live together, that we can tolerate each other, that we can get along and work together, and that we can move the ball down the road, which we tend to do as a species because we have all kinds of emotional needs driving us to do that. So, so I just wanted to kind of comment on that first, I guess, just some thoughts about, the ultimate idea of truth, because I want to kind of cut off at the knees for anybody watching this at all, anybody coming from this from any direction at all, that the answers you have or have found are wonderful for you, and that doesn't necessarily mean you have found the truth. Any more than as a Scientologist, I had found the truth. So that itself, bringing up, talking about that point is itself, what does that sound?
That's Benson. He's
that's
having a dream.
Oh, Benson's down there dreaming. Okay, he gets these little hiccupy sounds when he does that. I don't know if you guys can hear it. He's down below us right now. So anyway, yeah, so I wanted to kind of put that out there first, right? That this isn't about pushing. My talk here, or these points I'm about to go over today, are not about pushing any specific belief set or dogma, or I have now found Jesus or something. That's not where we're going today, right? I want to cover this in a little bit more broad terms so that it's kind of open and inclusive to anybody going in any direction, including not really going in any belief direction at all, right? Because that's perfectly okay too. One does not have to fill that void with some other set of beliefs written by some other person. That's not a requirement written down anywhere. So, yeah, talking about epistemology. That's right, Chris. That's exactly what I'm talking about. And it is, and even that word epistemology, you know, freaks people out, right? And it sure did me. I was like, what is that? What the hell is that word? We're going to go to the writings now. I've got a couple things to share with you guys. And if there has ever been a topic, by the way, that I have wanted to hear from you guys on what we're talking about today, it is this one. I am very curious about your thoughts and experiences with this, if you have any yourself, in terms of dumping a belief set and coming up with another one, or how do you cope and deal with finding that or filling that void, or fulfilling those emotional needs, in other words, right? You know, Leah went back to, you know, Catholicism. Well, that actually, we're going to go over that. So here we go. What happens to a person's faith or belief after leaving a cult? Category number 1, loss of faith. Some individuals may experience a complete loss of faith in any spiritual or religious beliefs. I sure did for a long time after Scientology, and I'm not alone in that. I've met all kinds of people at the secular hub and even in the skeptics groups in Minnesota who would fit that bill. Just a total loss. Just, you know, it's just a ricochet effect away from any belief. Right? They're all dangerous. This can occur if they feel betrayed or disillusioned by the teachings and practices of the cult. They may question the validity of all religious or spiritual teachings and become skeptical or atheistic. Reaffirmation of existing faith. And this is the kind of polar opposite. For others, leaving a cult may lead to a reaffirmation of their pre-cult spiritual beliefs. They may return to the religious traditions they were raised in or explore other spiritual paths that resonate with them. Leaving the cult might strengthen their faith as they rediscover their own beliefs outside of the cult's influence. And here, again, we've even seen people within the SPTV world, you know, go back to Christianity or, like I said, Leah with Catholicism. I don't have a problem with that personally. You know, I'm not like some big organized religion guy, but I don't care what people believe. And if that fulfills their needs without, you know, substituting it with another abusive belief set, what do I have to say about it? So that can be another thing that people do is go back to or reaffirm, you know, some earlier faith. And this, of course, goes hand in hand with restoring a pre-cult personality, so to speak, right? That going back and filling in those missing sort of stages of development and filling in all those missing gaps and kind of going back and re-getting you again, right? That you know, dropping all the cult bad habits and bad, you know, sort of personality traits and all that crap. Well, then you go back to, you know, who and what you were before, so to speak, right? I mean, you're really not. It's not like you're taking off a, I don't know, snail shell or something, or, you know, a suit. It's all still you, but you're just kind of reprioritizing, you know, your filing system upstairs is how I think about it. Okay, now this is an interesting one. At least it has been for me to observe this. Maintaining cult beliefs and practices, even after leaving a cult, right? For some, after they escape the oppressive environment of the cult, they believe that is all they need to do, and they continue to believe the cultic dogma, although often this is a curtailed or cherry-picked version. Such individuals do not seek treatment, therapy, or any new spiritual belief or faith because whatever emotional needs are being fulfilled by the cult dogma remain fulfilled, even if physically still being a part of the cult is impossible or unwanted for some reason. Now, I don't mean to too broadly categorize here, because I realize some people fit into this category. Independent Scientologists, for example, who do go get some therapy, but somehow that ain't enough, right? They're still holding on to and doing Scientology practices, and we see this in other faiths and cult practices as well. They quit TM, or they quit some other exaggerated high control version of transcendental meditation or some meditation practice, but then they keep meditating. But they don't necessarily keep meditating exactly the same way they were doing before. They may, because they never liked doing the 12-hour runs, so now they just meditate for 6 hours or something, right? So as we have discussed on this channel many times, this unfortunately means the individual will often still act like their cult self. And this is far too prevalent with this category, is they have only physically escaped, but they're still very much in the prison of belief that the cult created. So that's a category. This is interesting. Spiritual confusion. Leaving a cult can be a disorienting experience. Yeah, no shit. And individuals may feel spiritually adrift or confused for a period of time. They may struggle to make sense of their experiences and reconcile them with their previous beliefs or worldview. Oh, that's for sure. This confusion can be temporary as individuals work through their feelings and beliefs, which is, pretty universally the case. And often, people that I have worked with or consulted with that have fallen very much into this. There's been a lot of confusing ideas and sort outs, and well, what do I think about this, and what am I supposed to think about that, and and we we'll talk about that. I'm going to be the last person who's going to be telling people what they should be believing these days, but we try to navigate that. Okay, seeking new spiritual paths. Now there's some people come out and they are just like, what else is out here? And they start looking, right? Some individuals leaving cults may embark on a journey of exploration, seeking new spiritual paths or practices that feel more authentic to them. This could involve studying different religious traditions, engaging in meditation or mindfulness practices, or participating in spiritual communities that are less restrictive than the cult they left. And this can unfortunately be the place where they're most susceptible to falling for another cult. Because often, if they begin a journey like that, without first proofing themselves up as to why they got involved in the first cult, then they're still susceptible to, falling into another one. Yeah, exactly, ex-Scion, right? I've heard more than one ex-Scientologist say that they still believe in the tech, but not in the organization anymore. That is actually so classically true that that it was one of Arnie Lerma's stages of leaving Scientology, is that they would first say, yeah, I don't agree with Miscavige, or management's off the rails, but I love the tech, right? This is one of the first stages of leaving before the final stage, according to Lerma, was fuck L. Ron Hubbard and all of Scientology, but it takes a little bit to get there. Okay, so yes. As far as your question, Auntie Harju, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Can somebody truly be called an ex-Scientologist then? Yes, I definitely am an ex-Scientologist. I am not doing any Scientology of any kind in my life now. And I am very much ex. So I will proudly claim that label. Mel doesn't get to, because she was never a Scientologist.
Yeah, I was never in, so I don't know. I guess I'm a ex tarot card reader.
Right on. All right. Fair enough. Yeah, Xenu's a good guy. Yeah, sorry about that. All right. Yeah, no, if somebody still believes in the tech but not the org, that's what we call independent Scientologists. That's the term for that. Because they're still practicing Scientology, thinking with Scientology, using Scientology in their life favorably. They still want to have it. Although often, like I said, it is a cherry-picked sort of, their own version of Scientology. I have seen so many different versions of it from different independent Scientologists over the years. Some love the ethics, for example. They love the whole body of ethics stuff. Other people if I ever hear the word knowledge report again, I'm going to punch you in the face, right? Like, we are not doing ethics. So there can be very wide disparities in how that belief, basically manifests in Scientology, but that's kind of how that works. Okay, so seeking new spiritual paths, and the last one is psychological healing, right? What happens to people's faith after they leave? Well, leaving a cult often involves a process of psychological healing and recovery. As individuals work through the trauma and manipulation they experienced within the cult, they may find that their spiritual beliefs evolve or change in response to their healing journey. This could involve letting go of beliefs that were imposed by the cult and developing a more nuanced understanding of spirituality. And that's the path that I always encourage for people, because I think that there is an endless number of paths to go down and pursue, and holes to go down, and mountains to climb, and everything else. Goodbye, Patrice. I think there are so many, it's nearly infinite. It's limitless. There's so much to learn, so much to know, so many things to experience. And for me, 10 years out, it's been quite the journey. But I wanted to ask you, if I could. I'm totally going to put you on the spot right now, because I wanted to ask you what your observations, because we've been going together for 8 years now. 8 years. It's been awesome. She said that the other day, and I just about fell out of my chair because I couldn't believe it had been that long. It doesn't feel like it, and married for 6, right? And that's been awesome. So what have you noticed in me when it comes to this? Because you have been and maintain, and I have been and still maintain, a pretty atheist, agnostic kind of point of view, right? And yet, it hasn't just been, I haven't just been a flat line the whole time. I've been doing an awful lot of looking and seeking and talking and, that kind of thing, right? So what do you see?
Well, I'd say, like, for both of us, we're not as much the angry atheists anymore. Like, we're kind of figuring out how to get along with people that do have belief and don't have belief and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's that. And let's see, what else have I noticed in you? Yeah, you're not as, I don't know. What's the way? How do I put this? Like, yeah, I just think you're not as angry as you were. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What else?
Okay.
And I think you've kind of, over the years, like, I wouldn't say you've gotten spiritual, but you've gotten more thoughtful about spirituality and more curious about all the different forms of it and what it means and you've definitely gone on a journey about the, like, what does death mean thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Good.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Good. I was kind of curious, what it looked like from the outside, because from the inside, it's been quite the wild ride. Yeah, mellowed is certainly a way to put it. Got a lot more perspective on the world, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot more. And I'm going to say that for me in my path so far, chemical assistance has been very eye-opening, very relaxing, very chilling, mellowing in a lot of ways, but has opened my eyes. A lot of things in history, a lot of the analogies that people use in a religious or spiritual sense start making a lot more sense after you've dropped some acid. I have not done cocaine, just so we're clear. But psychedelics can produce some very interesting, and hallucinogens can produce some very, very interesting results in thinking and belief and perspective. And I had something that I wanted to share in terms of my own sort of beliefs and ideas in things, but I wanted to wait on that for a little bit because I wanted to see if you all now had anything you wanted to share with us, because if so, I'm definitely putting some call-in time here in the show. And I would like to not necessarily hear from the usual callers. I'm not saying nobody can, I'm not saying, you know, absolutely positively don't call in, but I am encouraging people maybe who haven't called in before to do so, because I would really like to know what your path or journey has looked like, or milestones, or difficulties or issues, or there is no, you know, I don't know where to go, right? That kind of thing. Just curious, just absolutely curious about that. So if any of y'all have anything you want to share or say or talk with us about, and of course, this being Critical Conversations, if you have something else you want to talk to us about, we're open to that too. We don't have to stick on this particular subject matter if you have some other burning question you want to ask us. So 984-214-4154 is the number. Yeah, exactly. Love. Oh, Alex. That's funny. I used to have a real problem with people going back to Christianity or going back to religion. You know, I used to have a real problem with it. It's funny how I left the Scientology behind for you know, in terms of the beliefs back in 2013, but then I kept the judgment for so long. Just the most judgmental jerk, right? I mean, just anybody who thought something that I didn't think made sense. You're a jerk, you know. How can you be so stupid? I mean, just what? How can what? Anyway, I'm glad that that doesn't have to be a permanent condition across, you know, across the spectrum for us. That we can actually learn, you know, some tolerance.
Yeah.
Right. It can be hard, certainly, and obviously when we're triggered, we're our worst version of ourselves. But in those, but we're not walking around, you know, being like that all the time. You've never had any religion in your life, right?
I mean, religion isn't like an organized religion, no. But you know, I mean, I did have sort of a belief in stuff like astrology and tarot and that kind of thing, but yeah, I never really had like you go here every week and you do these things and you have these rituals, and yeah, I didn't really have that.
Exactly. So you never really had any formalized.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Lucky.
I mean, I did get baptized, but I was like 6 months old.
Oh my. All right. Well, that's interesting. Really? Baptized?
Yeah, my mom felt like I needed to get baptized for some reason, even though, I mean, there's Catholicism in her family, but it was weird. I don't know. I don't get it.
Interesting. Yeah, there you go. You know, I mean, my brother is Catholic. My niece Phoebe just got baptized. And, you know, and I'm not on the phone going, you stupid. I mean, you imagine? Anyway, yeah, you don't want to do that kind of thing. Okay. There was another point that I wanted to make about this. I said these were kind of categories, but I realized in saying that I might be implying that one could not experience more than one of these things in this list that I went through, when the fact is you could actually, in a way, go through all of them in one fashion or another, right? So I didn't want to limit anybody's, I realized as I was going through it, I just needed to say that. So if anybody was hung up on that. All right, cool. Well, all right, good. So that actually is pretty much everything I had to say on that. So since nobody's calling in, that's fine. I'm going to share this with you guys. I mentioned, we did talk about that here, right? We talked about Mike Flanagan.
Did we?
I don't know.
I don't remember.
I'm going to tell you guys about something that we've been entertainment wise that has kind of really hit us pretty hard recently in a really great way. You know how when you find really good shows, like something that just you can just sink your teeth into, and every minute you're watching it, you're just, wow, this is good. And you're so caught up in it. And especially as a series of things, as like a limited series, not just a movie, you just can't wait for the next one. You know, it's riveting. That's Mike Flanagan's work for me right now. This guy who has created a number of movies and limited series shows on Netflix, all sort of themed around horror themes. But these are not, I mean, they're horror shows. I mean, definitely, they're scary stuff. But it's kind of like horror in the best possible sense. Mm-hmm. It's like Edgar Allan Poe kind of horror. Like there's a moral and a message in it, and there's such amazing dialogue and writing and themes being explored. It's high level stuff. It's not low level gore. It's not torture porn. It's not, you know, Friday the 13th kind of horror. It's you know, like, yeah, it's just much better. And Flanagan, and what I'm specifically referring to here are the limited series Midnight Mass and Fall of the House of Usher, which are the two that we've watched so far. And I'm so sold on this guy. I can't shut up about him. I'm that way. I just am. I find something I like and I want to share it with people. I mean, I don't know about y'all, but for me, it's like, you know, top 5 is, you know, Breaking Bad, The Wire, you know, pretty much so far anything from Mike Flanagan. What else is there?
I would say 6 Feet Under is in my top.
Oh God, yes, 6 Feet Under. Yes, 6 Feet Under, absolutely. And what was the? Oh, there was this. The Sopranos is very good. I'm not. It's not top 5 for me, but it's top 10. What was the cowboy? What was that? Deadwood. I personally loved it. Mel wasn't as much a fan, but I thought the research and production values and everything on Deadwood were just bar none. You know, they were amazing. Anyway, going on and on here about this, I want to tell you guys. Oh, wait a minute. Hang on a second. What's this now? Oh, good. Okay, we'll pick you up in just a second, Travis. Now that I started this, I'm gonna finish my point. The thing that I loved and had no idea it was coming, I spoiler free, did not read anything about it before we got into it, was the show Midnight Mass. I think it was 7 episodes, and they're all titled after sort of biblical references. There's apparently Mike Flanagan grew up Catholic and had all kinds of, you know, religious ideas and stuff, and he's an atheist now, and he explored through the course of this show, and this is old news. I mean, I'm just catching up now. He explored so many different religious themes, and so many different monologues and discussions in the show had to do with religiosity, and in various ways and in various angles, from atheism to belief and extremism and dogmatic, you know, evangelical literalism and the nonsense of that. And because I'm always going to say that when you become literal in your belief on almost anything, you're, you know, one step away from psychosis, pretty much. I mean, the way that's just crazy. I'm being exaggerated. I'm not here to say everybody who is evangelical is a psychotic. Sorry, I don't mean to imply that. It's just the literal-minded religious do drive me a bit crazy. Okay, so anyway, there's a lot of things explored in this show. And it was somewhat shocking to me, and I mean shocking. Like, I was already like very emotionally invested in the show and very emotionally affected by it. And then the last episode comes around, and it's been out long enough that I'm not going to worry about spoilers or anything. But I really would love to have y'all watch this thing, because it is so... I thought it was educational, but I also thought it was entertaining, you know, like so good. And there's I guess the word is a soliloquy at the end of the show. And it's a woman dying. And there's a lot of death in this show. I mean, it's a horror show. it's a tragedy. It doesn't end on an up note. Okay, that's the whole thing about horror. It never really has a happy ending. You're not watching it for happy endings, okay? But the point is not happy endings. The point is there are things to learn and there are things to experience that are actually in some ways transcend happiness even. And that's kind of a relatively new thought for me. You know, somebody had to point out recently in some video I was watching. They just said this so matter of factly, and I just about fell out of my chair because it was so matter of fact, but so true. You know, your brain doesn't exist to make you happy. That's not what its function is. Happiness isn't the goal. You know, survival, living, keeping going. That's the function of this thing. Making you happy isn't part of the picture. That's just something we like to experience, and your brain will reward you for happy, pleasant experiences. But, you know, down that road lies addiction in many, many ways if you don't temper that with some reality and keep things on the DL, right, for yourself. Anyway, imagine my shock when the conclusions and ideas and concepts that I felt I had sort of independently come to through my journey were expressed by Mike fucking Flanagan so perfectly at the end of this show. And I wanted to share it with you guys. Now, I don't have to, and if you don't want me to, or if I'm going to read this and it's going to be like, you know, annoying or something, let me know right now and I will drop this and tell you to just go watch the show. But I'd like to read this to you, so you guys tell me in the comments if you want me to do that or not. And I'm going to take this call from Travis, and we will come back to that. So I don't want to keep him on the line forever here either. I always like Travis's calls. Okay, so here we go. Hello, Travis, you're on.
Greetings, Chris, and greetings, Melissa.
Hello.
Hey, welcome to the show.
Excellent. Thank you for taking my call. I have a question for you, Chris, and I think it'll develop the point that you've been making about leaving cult behavior.
What you got?
And not cult, I guess, hopping?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you something. What was your standard of evaluating truth while you were in Scientology? Did that change when you got out? Or let's compare you now with then.
Yeah.
So what was your standard of truth while you were in Scientology? And now how do you evaluate it?
Yeah, perfect. That's a great question, because my standard was basically, did L. Ron Hubbard say it? I hate to say that. It's so gross, but it really was where my head was at. I judged truth on how much it aligned with or fit to what L. Ron Hubbard had to say. And if he didn't cover it, did he cover something close enough to it that I could, you know, connect the dots or intuit it? And then now, of course, it's, you know, radically different. I mean, ever since I discovered critical thinking, it was Carl Sagan step by step. It's like you evaluate the information, you apply facts to it, you apply Occam's razor to it, you apply your logical fallacies to it, you examine and analyze the information, and then you come to a conclusion as to whether it's good, bad, right, wrong, or whatever. So it's a very, very different standard.
Well, I'm certainly glad to hear you talk about the second part. I've tried to do that for most of my life, and I have failed miserably most of the time. But I put forth an effort.
Yep.
The other thing that I think needs to be brought out that you missed there, well, you didn't miss, I'd like to add, and it's with Carl Sagan's input, is that you really have to look at your assumptions.
Yes,
so while you were describing... So is there a difference between an assumption and a bias? I guess there is, or not.
I mean, there varies. I think there's I think the Venn diagram is pretty laid. Is not 100%, but pretty good crossover on assumption and bias. I think
that's fair.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's great. So here's the thing. The reason why I bring that up is because you mentioned that you were evaluating information in accordance with what Hubbard had said. So what's the big assumption there? Well, Hubbard's right. He had some inroad to, I don't know, truth, ultimate truth. Ultimate truth is a useless term anyway, but regardless of that, your basal assumption was that Hubbard knew what he was talking about. And to be fair, that wasn't yours. That was something Scientology put in your brain.
You got it. You got it.
So, having said that, what I'm speaking to is, in a general sense, is the assumptions that people carry around with them or make in an innocent fashion. So, was it Gremlins who shut off Mel's mic tonight? Oh, I could assume that.
You goddamn right it was. I know they're infesting this house. They're everywhere. I'm just kidding.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, they might be. But really, is that a good assumption to make?
Right.
Now, I've got, you can make other assumptions, but it's that kind of thing that needs to be taken a look at. Well, our gremlin, I can tell you I used to work in broadcasting. You want to talk about gremlins? Oh, my gosh. Gremlins can do a lot of things.
Right on. Right on.
Cars, too. I used to curse. So that's the kind of thing that I'm looking at. Yep. Hopefully this was helpful.
Thank you.
And that's all I've got.
Awesome. All right. Thanks a lot, Travis. Appreciate the call. All right. Let's do that. All right. Good. All right, folks. So, microphone body thetans. That's right. All right. So I'm going to read this. Now, I'm not going to perform this. Okay. So, yeah, I know. It's a lot more meaningful with all the imagery and everything they show at the end of the show. But I think that this communicates something that is, I might as well, I feel in many ways that, that I wrote this, even though I didn't. This is exactly what was in my mind. And that's what I love about art that communicates to us and touches us, is it hits us in such a way that it feels like it was a part of us that somebody else saw, or created. And there it is. And you're like, oh my God, how did this guy or woman reach into me and produce this? Because this is, you see yourself in it. And that's what I love about good writing, music and all of that. All right. So, there's this question of what happens to you when you die. And if you were to ask me what happens to you when you die, or what happens when you die, or whatever, my favorite answer to that question, by the way, is Louis C.K.'s answer. I don't know if he invented it, but it's certainly the best answer I have heard, which is lots and lots of things happen when you die, but you're not there for them. That's the flippant answer, okay? This is what I believe gives our life and death meaning, or what it means in the bigger picture of things, though, okay? Myself, that's the problem. That's the whole problem with the whole thing. The word self. That's not the word. That's not right. That isn't. How did I forget that? When did I forget that? The body stops a cell at a time, but the brain keeps firing those neurons. Little lightning bolts, like fireworks inside. And I thought I'd despair or feel afraid, but I don't feel any of that. None of it. Because I'm too busy. I'm too busy in the moment remembering. Of course, I remember that every atom in my body was forged in a star. This matter, this body, is mostly empty space after all. And solid matter, it's just energy vibrating very slowly. Why, there is no me. There never was. The electrons of my body mingle and dance with the electrons of the ground below me and the air I'm no longer breathing. And I remember there is no point where any of that ends and I begin. I remember I am energy, not memory, not self. My name, my personality, my choices all came after me. I was before them and I will be after. And everything else is pictures picked up along the way. Fleeting little dreamlets printed on the tissue of my dying brain. And I am the lightning that jumps between. I am the energy firing the neurons, and I'm returning. Just by remembering, I'm returning home. And it's like a drop of water falling back into the ocean of which it's always been a part. all things apart. You, me, my mother, and my father, everyone who's ever been, every plant, every animal, every atom, every start, every galaxy, all of it. More galaxies in the universe than grains of sand on the beach. And that's what we're talking about when we say God. The cosmos and its infinite dreams. We are the cosmos dreaming of itself. It's simply a dream that I think is my life every time. But I forget this. I always do. I always forget my dreams. But now, in this split second, in the moment I remember, the instant I remember, I comprehend everything at once. There is no time. There is no death. Life is a dream. It's a wish made again and again and again and again and again and again and on into eternity. And I am all of it. I am everything. I am all. I am that I am. That's it. So that means a lot to me, and I wanted to share that with you guys because if you ask me what I think about our place in the universe and all of that and where I've come to after 10 years of being out of and away from Scientology and slamming myself very hard against the atheist, there is nothing, fuck all religion wall for a very long time, I started unpeeling myself from that and started looking a little bit harder and a little bit more and mellowing a little bit and judging a little bit less and a little less harshly and then a lot less harshly and thinking and looking and trying to figure out what it's all about. And I don't know that there is any what it's all about. But when I think about the big picture things, that's what comes to mind for me now, is that we all are connected and that we are all the same thing. We are all star stuff. And this goes back to Carl Sagan as well. This is, life is very, very real. We are experiencing a very real thing. And yet, at the same time, who we are, what we are, is a dream. It is a part of a much, much bigger picture that we're all part of. And what we make of this and what we do with this little fleeting chance of time is everything we get in this consciousness of it, this go around. So I think that's pretty cool. And this was the, again, final sort of statement or soliloquy given by one of the characters at the end of the show, Midnight Mass. And you'll have to watch the show to get the full context of everything because there's lead up to it and there's a lot, and there's more to be had in experiencing the whole thing, but I just couldn't help myself. I had to share that with you because, like I said, it hit me right between the eyes with a sledgehammer that this guy that I've never met and don't know nailed everything that's gone on in my head in my own journey. I think that's pretty cool. And I think that's, if there is anything that makes art special, it's that. It's that connection that we all can have to it and what we draw from it, I just think that's amazing. So that's about as spiritual as I'm going to get. Okay, so on that happy note, I guess we'll start wrapping up.
Yeah.
Okay, it's about that time. So why don't you find us a card? I'm going to tell you guys that I think you're going to love the podcast tomorrow. It's this 2-hour chat with Cass Folletti, Theta, otherwise known as Theta Novus. That is posting tomorrow. We talk about basically modern Scientology, especially in Australia, and her experiences with it. And then we will have a and we're going to go live on Sunday. I think we're going to be kind of moving in that direction, but I'm trying every week. I'm going to try harder and harder to make it a little bit more formalized. I think we did like an 1.5-hour show last week, by the way, on the Critical Q&A on Sunday. So do join us for that, and do feel free to fire anything at me. I'll deal with it. I might not answer your question, but at least I'll be happy you asked me. But mostly I'll answer your questions. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So, ready?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Your bias is curse of knowledge. Once you understand something, you presume it to be obvious to everyone. It can be hard to remember our own prior state of confusion when we didn't understand something. When teaching someone something new, go slow without being patronizing.
Excellent. To answer your question, Bo, I actually answered your question at the beginning of this show. So go back to the replay, check it out. I've already dealt with it. So there you go on that. Glad I mentioned that tonight. Okay. Is it true you did that? Yeah, me and a bunch of other psychologists. It's a thing. And by the way, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know where this nonsense comes from. In the United Kingdom, my professor told me that my degree constitutes the title psychologist in the UK, but I'm not using that. I'm not doing that. I'm not saying that. I'm not putting that anywhere. Nowhere have I ever identified myself as a psychologist. So anybody who tells you otherwise is rather silly. Thank you very much, Linda, for your super chat. I am so thankful for that. I want to encourage everybody as we go out here tonight to support the show and what we're trying to do here, which is help. We're just trying to help. And work on recovery and education on coercive control and all of that. That's what this is about. All right, guys. Oh, no worry, Bo. Just check it out. And thank you, John. All right. All right, guys. Join me Sunday. I will get the link up, and we'll have a great time. Probably 11 a.m. as usual right here. Same bat channel. All right, bye. Bye-bye.